Hello everyone, NMWT here, and welcome to something completely different. Alright, so you want to get into the world of Pathfinder, or 3.5 if that's what you're into. I won't judge. Regardless of what game you choose, once you found yourself a game to play in, the first thing you'll need is a character. So today we'll go through the steps of making a character. Now these are the steps I recommend to new players who have never played a tabletop before. And if you're a veteran who understands Pathfinder 3.5, Dark Heresy, Call of Cthulhu, D20 Modern, Edge of the Empire, GURPS, then you probably don't need to watch this, and you're just as qualified as I am to make a video on your own, so why don't you go do that? Alright, to everyone else who knows nothing, Jon Snow, we'll talk to you about the simple steps of making a character. So before I begin, to all you 3.5 players, take my information with a grain of salt. Pathfinder has a lot of differences than with 3.5, and they're just subtle changes with the statistics or values. So if I ever say like it gives +2 to this, +2 to that, just make sure that in 3.5 it does the same thing, and you don't just go, well, NMWT said I could do it, yeah, so I'm going to do it. And that's not how it works. But anyway, we'll get on to the first step, concept. Before you even look so much as to decide what race or class you want to be, first decide what you want your character to be like. Do you want to be that sneaky rogue who knifes people in the back? Do you want to be that cunning archer who just fires arrows like Legolas? Or do you want to be that guy with the sword and shield who protects his enemies from danger? Yes, you can protect your enemies from danger in Pathfinder. Anything is possible. Alright, there's also some less textbook examples. So like if you wanted to be a guy who runs up to people with a scimitar and steals their life energy, you totally could do that. In fact, I built that. Or Cat Girl Ninja, because I built that too. Anyway, what you want to do is you want to figure out what you want your character to do, what you want your character to be, what you want your character to look like. That is very important. Usually for advanced players, that means you find a spell, a feat, a class feature, or item, and you just build your character around that with that in mind. But for new players, it's the concept. It's, I want to do this. I want to be this. I want to look like this. And that is what you got to find that you want to do. Because once you find that, you build your character with that in mind. And typically you don't want to change your character concept once you got your character created, because everything you're going to do is going to be working towards that concept, and you don't want to waste decisions by like, oh, actually I want to do this now, and you're like, well, I have all this, what am I supposed to do with it? So that's character concept. This is the longest decision. You have to, or the shortest decision. So, race and gender. And by the time you figure your main concept of what you want your character to do / be, you should probably have a good mental image of what your character looks like. If not, it's not a cinch. If you do, it's a cinch. But if you don't, well, you should go back and think on that, and then come find me here. Typically, you want to pick a race that either builds on your character, your concept statistically or roleplayly. Is that a word? Is now. So if you know what you want your character to do, then you probably know what statistics you'll need, or you'll know what statistics you'll need by the end of the video. Hopefully. Roleplay wise is basically you study up, you're like, oh, dwarves are like this, well I want my character to be like this, so I'm going to choose a dwarf because dwarfs are like this and I'm like this, so it makes sense that I fit like this. But again, that requires a lot of understanding of the lore setting you're in. And if you enjoy reading up on that stuff, then by all means, that's probably what you should do. You shouldn't go for statistics, you should go for roleplay. If you enjoy roleplay, you should definitely go for roleplay, not for statistics, because this is your character. This is what you want to do. This is what you're going to find fun, hopefully. If you really can't figure out what race you want to play, just be a human. I'm going to go into detail of the races. So we'll start off with humans. They're the run-of-the-mill. There's nothing special about them in terms of roleplay, but they're the best choice for new players because you could be an experienced human who has no contact with outside races. So like, whoa, you're an elf? And it just like, it fits. It fits your inexperience, right? They also get an extra feat at first level, more on that later, and an extra skill point each level, more on that later. Their ability score change is a +2 to wherever you want it, so basically it allows them to play any kind of character. This is why it is very good for first players. And the extra feat at first level just gets you that extra head start on everyone else, so that you can be hitting your stride sooner. Dwarves. Aye, lads and lasses. Dwarves will be a good choice for characters who want to be tough. They get a +2 to con and wisdom, and a -2 to charisma. This makes it an amazing choice for monks and rangers. They can also see in the dark up to 30 feet, and that's quite useful as you don't need a light source in dark caves and dungeons, which means you won't alert enemies to your presence. Great! But only great if everyone in the party has it. The downside is that they only have a speed of 20 feet, no matter what armor they're wearing, which could be good or bad. And the -2 to charisma is great if you don't want to roleplay. If you want to roleplay, if you want to be that character who talks to people, then it's a bad choice. Or if you want to be that character who talks to people poorly and makes bad decisions, then the charisma is good. Elves. The fair, graceful elves are a solid choice for backline characters. They get a +2 to dex and int, but a -2 to con. And con is hit points. So, having low hit points, bad. They get immunity to magic sleep, which is nice-ish. They also get a +2 to perception, the god skill in Pathfinder. Now their downside is definitely that -2 con, because low hit points equals death. Sure, you're a backline character, but if that one thing sneaks up on you, like this one time we were playing Pathfinder drunk, the guy's like, I want to be an elf ranger who dies in one hit. So I built that. And first round of the first combat, direwolf snuck up on him, got a crit. Rest in peace. So keep that in mind if you want to play an elf. You're kind of a little more squishy than most races. Gnome. But someone mentioned the gnomes. Oh god, these annoying fake creatures. They get a +2 to con and charisma and a -2 strength, making them great for bards, sorcerers, clerics, paladins. Oh, and paladins not dependent on strength, because if you want to be a sword and board paladin, then you're kind of out of luck. They also get a +2 to that perception skill and a +2 of craft or profession of their +2 of craft or profession of their choice. Gives you some good roleplay elements with that, being like if you want to be a baker, a cook, or whatever, because you're not just an adventurer, you're also this. Some fun choices with that. And what I don't like about these guys is all their situational bonuses, and the other downside is that they're small. Small makes you harder to hit for sure, but you're easier to pick up and a lot easier for baddies to swallow you whole. Ever been swallowed whole? Usually means you die. And especially as a gnome, if you're small, it means your weapon doesn't do a lot of damage because it's smaller than most, and that -2 strength means you're in there, and you're in there until either you die and you come out, or someone kills it and cuts you out. Usually, you're dead. Half-elf. Torn between a human and elf? Why not both? Half-elves are like humans in that they can fit any role, although not as well as humans, being that they have to trade their bonus feat for skill focus. Skill focus is great, giving you backstory component or that roleplay element, being like, I'm really good at this skill. Why? Well, here's why. What else? They get a +2 to any attribute like humans. They also get a second favorite class, what makes them ideal for multi-classing, because favorite classes are good. Half-orc. I strongly suggest you don't play a half-orc. The race is at a statistic disadvantage to all the other core races. If you want to be a half-orc for some feat, roleplay element, or what have you, pick a human, and to use your bonus feat as racial heritage orc. You're a half-orc, but you're also a better half-orc than all other half-orcs. Halfling. We'd call them hobbits, but we can't. They get a +2 to dex and charisma and a -2 strength. They make good rogues, bards, sorcerers, clerics, and paladins, not dependent on strength again. They get a +1 bonus to all saves, a +2 bonus to acrobatics, climb, and perception checks. A lot of people consider them to be the best race. I consider humans, but anyway. that small, once again, really hurts what you can do in terms of combat. Small weapons, again, deal less damage than their medium-sized counterparts. Alright, well that's all the core races. I'm not going to go into the advanced races because some game masters don't allow them, some do. Some allow them with only things, so it's up to your game master if you want to play a special snowflake race in the advanced race guide. I recommend for first characters, stick to the core. That way, like, all the strengths and weaknesses of that race are like freaking known to everyone. It's really great. If you pick like an obscure class or race, then you don't get as much support. Not a lot of people know what that race does. And it's on you to know what it does, and as a new player, you are not the best source of knowing what's good and bad. Alright, for gender, typically you want your first character to be the same gender as you. Makes it a lot easier to roleplay, a lot more comfortable for you. You don't have to pretend to be a girl. You don't have to hit on a guy pretending to be a girl while you're pretending to be a guy. Yeah, it's just really weird if you do that and you're not comfortable with that. And especially if you're new at a table, you want to stick to your own gender so you don't get that creepy first impression, like, why is that guy playing a girl? Why is he hitting on me? Alright, well, with your concept in mind, it's time to choose a class. Now, for total and complete newbies who don't want to put the time and effort to learn completely new informed systems all by themselves and would rather learn as they play, stay away from casters! If you don't want to spend hours learning how to cast spells and how magic do in a fantasy environment, stay away from casters. Like, oh, I want to be that wizard. How do I do it? How do I do it? Everyone will hate you. Everyone. Even the people not sitting at the table will hate you. Yeah. Don't do casters. First character should not be a caster unless you're experienced with tabletops or you want to put the hours in to learn how magic works. Now, the other things you need to keep in mind is that this is not MMO classes. Any class can do anything they want. If you want to be a wizard who goes in with a greatsword, then by all means you can. If you want to be a fighter who fights with the staff, well, obviously you can, because fighters fight. The only thing is you have to have a level in a casting class to cast spells, so obviously a fighter can't cast spells unless he takes a level of wizard, which is the other thing. You can multi-class. You can be a fighter, wizard, sorcerer, barbarian, monk, ninja, if you want. Is it viable? Up to you to make it viable. I played some really obscure multi-class combinations, and they worked, depending on what you do. Alright, so let's go into the classes. I'm going to describe each class in order of what I think the easiest to hardest to play is. So we're going to start off with fighters. Fighters are weapon experts and have mastery over the weapons that other classes seldom have, whether they be knights in heavy armor with a sword and shield, or the dexterous brigand in light armor and a rapier, or skillful archers with bows and arrows. Fighters are easy to play because most of their abilities are passive and apply to everything. That's what makes them great. That's what makes them great for new players. They don't have spells, they don't have those special abilities, they don't have situational bonuses, they just, me fighter, me fight. Rogues. Rogues are the stealthy little buggers who sneak up and stab you for massive amounts of damage when you're out looking. They typically dual wield a pair of daggers, but you can play them however you want. Just dual wielding, you get sneak attack per attack, so the more attacks you make, 2 weapons, the more sneak. Though one of my favorite rogues is, I call it the Yasuo build. Basically you run around charging with a 2-handed weapon, using power attack and sneak attack, so you do a lot of damage per swing. Rogues are a little harder to play than fighters because of sneak attack, and because not everything can be sneak attacked, and you have to figure out how to get your sneak attack, so you have to think more than just me run up, me hit thing. Barbarian. Angry, raging warriors of death. They get angry, and those who made them angry regret doing so. They get a little less choice in weapons and armor than a fighter, but they make up for it with their rage ability. Now, the rage ability is a uses per day thing, And that has a lot to track when you're using it, especially before, like, using it, and then there's after effects, which, like, you're tired. So you have to keep track of that. Not easy to do for a new player, but if you're like, I want to be a caster, and you're, like, confident that, like, without studying, without doing anything, that you could play a caster, play a barbarian, and if you can get from level 1 to level 2 as a barbarian effectively, then you're probably okay to try a caster. But again, consult your game master. Monk. Martial artists who make rapid attacks with their Fist of Fury or a very specific set of other weapons. This class gets a ki pool which they use to fuel their abilities. It's kind of like spells, but kind of isn't. Think Goku. He's not magic, he's ki. Managing this, like managing ki and keeping track of all that you can apply it for, because like Goku runs on ki. Look, think of all the things he can do with his ki. Lot harder to do than just me fight or me fight. And the other roleplay restriction is that you have to be lawful, which is kind of hard for first-time players, but it might be easy depending on how you as a person act. Oh yeah, barbarians, you can't be lawful. So barbarians, the roleplay is not that hard. Sorcerers. Sorcerers are the easiest caster. Now I'm not going to go into the difference between spontaneous and prepared spellcasting here. That'll be later when we get to spells. But know that spontaneous casters are easier to manage, and sorcerers, by their placement, are spontaneous casters. So sorcerers draw their power from their bloodline, which can either be from like the draconic bloodline, demon bloodline, ancient bloodline, whatever floats your boat bloodline, and really it gives them some interesting roleplay options. Bards. Musical minstrels who perform to aid their allies. They get spells and it uses a per day ability called Bardic Performance. Now they get a bunch of performances and it's hard to keep track of what each performance does and when's a good time to use it. Now a lot of their spells, because they are spellcasters, are support oriented, so they're not going to be a lot of me run in, me fight. But I mean, if you want to, like, bards can fight. Their weapon choices are a lot more restrictive than fighters, barbarians, and the like. Like, normally their choices are like rapier, bow, or whip. Though, if you want to play something a little more obscure, by all means you can. It just means that you have to multi-class to get that extra weapon proficiency. Moving on. This is where I draw the line for new players. So anything above that, by all means play. Anything below this, don't play. Please do not play it for your first time. You won't have fun. Alright, moving on. Wizards. They're arcane spellcasters who develop their magic through study. Now wizards are basically sorcerers, except instead of a bloodline, they have a school of magic they specialize in wizard school. And they have 2 schools of magic that they kind of just skip class in on wizard college or wizard school. Not sure how wizards learn how to wizard, but you know. Now it gives you some roleplay elements, but it also will screw you over royally if you choose the wrong school of magic to not specialize in. I have a friend, just ask him. Just ask him about specialization in opposition schools. He will let you know that first time wizards, you get fucked over if you choose wrong. Alright, the other thing is that they're really hard to manage is that they have to choose what spells they know, and then on top of that, they have to choose what spells they're going to prepare each day. So, if you only prepare 1 fireball, that's 1 fireball. That's all you have for the entire day. If you prepare only fireballs, that's all you have, and if something's immune to fireball, you're like, shit, I'm out of luck. So it requires a lot of forethought as a sorcerer is like, oh, it's immune to fireball, I guess I'll just cast lightning. You have to think. You have to think of what you're going to need for each day, and a lot of new players, they can't manage it because they're new to this, they have no idea what to expect from day-to-day adventuring. So it's insanely difficult to predict what you're going to need without that experience of being a senior player. So stay away from wizards, guys. Paladin. Paladins, holy warriors of light. Oh boy, do they have things to manage. In addition to the spells, they have uses of smite evil, which only apply to evil things, which again, like paladins, I fight evil. They also have an ability called Lay on Hands, which they can use to heal their allies or the paladin themselves. They get a fair bit of choice in their arsenal, armor but the big restriction is that they have to be lawful good. Now, as a new player, playing lawful good, not the funnest. You have to actually commit to being lawful good for it to be true. You actually have to commit to being lawful good for you to find it enjoyable. Now, I wouldn't say that being lawful good will take away a lot of fun, but unless you know how to have fun playing this game, which again comes with experience, you're not going to find it enjoyable, being that you can't just kill everyone willy-nilly, you can't just do whatever you want, you have some restrictions. Anyway, we'll move on to Rangers. Rangers, stealthy hunters of wild. Oh boy, do these guys have situational bonuses. Favorite enemy, favorite terrain, favorite color. They also get spells. Now this is the third hardest class if you don't choose an animal companion. If you do choose that animal companion, this is in my opinion the second hardest class in the game. Well, of the core classes. Now, because you get that pet, you have to not only keep manage of yourself, your abilities and all that, you also have a pet to keep track of. And you have to manage the pet's abilities and statistics. And it's a lot for a new player to do. Cleric. Cleric, or priest, the chosen representative of a deity to channel their power and bring about their will. If that doesn't say roleplay restrictive to you, I don't know what will. Clerics are the best healers of the core classes, and probably of all classes. That said, they don't have to be healers. Play a cleric of an evil deity, and you're the bringer of death and destruction. What is so hard about this class is that you have to learn about the deities. You have to know what it is you worship, because you worship it. And that brings some roleplay restrictions on to you. You have to follow that god's will. Like, if your god is opposed to undead, then you can't literally have a necromancer in your party. So, again, clerics, fun. They also have their spells. And again, spellcasting, lots of fun. No, it's not. I stay away from spells. And not only spells, they have their channel energy, which can either heal or harm depending on the cleric or depending on how the cleric's feeling. So that they also have to manage because that's a uses per day thing. And yeah, first time players, never play cleric, never play cleric, never play cleric, never play cleric. Did I get that through? Don't play clerics. Now you see me a lot of saying, don't play this, don't play that, because yeah, don't play this. It's a lot more experience than you have, and no one else is going to tell you not to do it, so I figure I'm going to tell you, well, I don't know who you are, so I don't feel hurt that I'm telling you you shouldn't do this. But again, learn how to play, then do this. This is for first time players. If you're a first time player, don't play cleric, don't play a wizard, don't play a ranger, and don't play a druid. Now we'll get on to druids. Druids are protectors of the wild. They also get a pet. Not only that, they have the situational bonuses and they have shapeshifting, which means you'll have to keep track of the stat changes of your character when you shapeshift, each and every time you shapeshift into a different form. Fun. You get spells. Fun. So basically you're managing like more than 3 characters because you've got your pet, and you've got whatever forms you take on. Now, in terms of roleplay restriction, you have to be neutral. That's just how druids do. And you have a lot of items and armor and weapons that you can't use because they're made of metal. Now, I'm not saying that druids can't wield a greatsword because they don't have proficiency with it. I'm saying that if a druid picks up a greatsword, he loses all his druid powers. See why that's a problem. So yeah, druids, hardest of the core classes. Hardest to roleplay, typically. They have the most restrictions on them, at least. And most management, because pets, shape-shifting spells. This is a class that even I avoid because of how complex it is. So yes, those are the races and classes. Next time, we'll move on to the ability scores step, and whatever else I have time for in that. thank you all so much for watching. See you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!